coming up with by the end of the period. And one of the things that as we had our whole entire list of things for 2018, 2019, well-being kind of ended up being an overall concept that we were looking at, whether it be Juuls, anti-vaccinations, Tide Pods, and all that kind of stuff going on. So by no means am I going, okay, this is something that we have to do, but it would seem to me that an appropriate potential resolution, and the hope would be that we would come up with 4, would be something along the lines of the U.S. government, you don't need to write this down yet, should regulate personal well-being. So what that would imply, coming from the list that we were looking at yesterday, what do we mean when we say someone's personal well-being? Could be mental health.
It'd be like, we talked about this in nutrition about putting taxes on like sugar and really fattening foods.
And that didn't. And I bet if we, if we were living in like Philadelphia a couple of years ago and made this list, sugar tax would be one of the things that would. I think it was it's either 16 or 17. I think when they ended up enacting one. But in New York City has done some things with it before. Philadelphia did a sugar tax. I forget what the amount was, but like a penny or something, per ounce of non-natural sugar. So if it was added, so if you were buying apple juice, orange juice, that wouldn't be a sugar tax. But if you were buying a case of Pepsi, that would get a sugar tax. And if you're going, if it was 1 1/4 cents per ounce or whatever, it doesn't sound like a big deal. But if you have 24 cans of 24-ounce beverage, the money does kind of start, adding up. What's the hope by doing a sugar tax?
You get more money.
You could look at it one way that the government gets more money out of it, but the other thing would be, well, okay, if I'm between a case of water and a case of Pepsi, I'll buy the case of water, healthier, healthcare costs, things like that, long term with diabetes, heart disease, all that kind of stuff would go down.
And then you could say figure like alcohol, like tobacco tax.
Yeah, well, and certainly like tobacco tax in PA, I don't know compared to other states what all the numbers are, but it's pretty significant. Where if you have we talked about those numbers going down, if you have a smoking habit, you're paying a lot of money for a carton of cigarettes. Alcohol, there's tax for serving within restaurants in Allegheny County. It's like 10%. So if we were to do something like this, for one of our resolutions where the government should regulate personal well-being, you would be certainly able to bring in things like sugar tax. And even just like with alcohol, taking a look at age limits and things of that nature, really you end up having what's kind of referred to as the sin tax when it comes to cigarettes, when it comes to alcohol. You could certainly be looking at the legalization of marijuana. We were talking about Juuls a little bit, the other day. So those would all be things that we could kind of take care of hitting a lot of those topics with one resolution. One thing to keep in mind with the resolutions, I would say the 2 things that you want to always kind of have at the forefront when you're asking, will it work? Is it relevant? So, does it matter? Do people care about it? And is it dynamic? And what I mean by dynamic is it interesting that you can go to different lengths with it? And can you argue both sides? Because you don't want to come up with, hey, let's do this resolution. It would be great. As long as we're arguing affirmative, and then you end up being the poor sap who gets stuck, arguing the negative side of it. So, the part of this that I think comes fairly dynamic and relevant is if you do go, the U.S. government should regulate personal well-being, and I think a lot of us kind of, all right, I can understand why sugar taxes and all those things would be important. Whose body is it? So what is that line where government control kind of comes to an end or not? So again, I'm not saying we need to argue this one, but I think that would be one that would work. Vaccinations were getting mentioned, I think, at the end of class. Emma was saying those things. So that would kind of be an example of stuff that you could do with it. Zach, was your hand up earlier?
Yeah,
I'm not sure what the number is, but yeah, it would certainly be something that would be able to kind of fall into that, into that realm. I was just kind of thinking in my head after we had our discussion yesterday. Things that didn't come up, and not saying that we have to again go over them, but stuff that didn't come up. We didn't say anything about AI. I think like 2018, 2019, like it's like the year of Alexa.
Yeah, right.
So like something with artificial intelligence. We were mentioning some things with music, entertainment, but I didn't know if anything like with film, music, entertainment, so far as celebrities and the idea of role models or creativity. Is creativity better now with all the different access that we have with technology or through YouTube access to various just songs or ideas that people have there, or has creativity been stifled because we rely upon those things, more so than anything else? There was a run for a while where I swear every single Hollywood movie coming out was like a redo of something else that had already been out. And it's one thing to say, hey, we're going to do a novel and not put it in movie form, but we just had Mary Poppins come out. We had Mary Poppins. The middle school or the 9th grade musical just did Mary Poppins, which was very good, but we were kind of getting inundated with Mary Poppins over and over and over again. Space exploration, value of college. I wrote down, world is better today than it was, and then I had like fill in the blank, which is kind of an all, it's a better year than it was in 1989. So like you would say today is, the world's never been better.
No, other way.
Oh, you're going to another.
The worst thing that's ever made.
The world was better in
Yes. Sounds good.
Back in
1648.
It was better.
We're getting into some things with politics, so like politics, values, ethics kind of doesn't matter. And then underneath that, I wrote the question: are we too politically correct?
You think we're politically aligned with everything, everything's too based on politics.
And then we kind of alluded to some things when I wrote down like social media communication, like maybe the impact social media's had, via communication and all those things, good or bad. So I guess kind of start off, is this something that you think we would be interested in potentially doing of like our 4? Julie's nodding. Carrick's going, man, my arm still hurts. Did you put lotion on this morning?
Yeah.
Good. At least 4 times a day.
Yep.
Okay. We could do tattoos.
What about
I don't know. Carrick's tattoo is beautiful, and that could be our debate.
Yes.
It'd be really good if Carrick had to argue against himself.
I think my tattoo is terrible. It's not beautiful. It's
That's right.
If we were actually doing tattoos, we could do something about like, I heard that like face and neck tattoos are getting more accepted for jobs.
Yeah. Do tattoos
Like
influence
militaries would do some
type of
restrictions on what you can have because they need more.
You said mail carriers.
No, the
Or-
military.
Oh, military. I thought you said mail. I thought you were going post office on us. Because they need a lot of help.
You couldn't have like visible tattoos,
Uh-huh.
but now they need like computer scientists,
Mm-hmm.
analysts, and stuff like that, and they're reducing.
No, I when and I'd say the same thing too, like with piercings and things like that. I stopped wearing earrings when I started student teaching because they're like, yeah, you probably shouldn't wear any. I swear every single one of my kids' elementary school teachers has like a nose ring.
Do you have studs back in the day?
No hoops. Yeah, you gotta have some serious like size to them. So like you certainly could do something along like what's the, and even like with colleges and whatnot, is the more open with like looks and things like that. I think that whole political correctness could kind of come along with it.
I wasn't here yesterday, but a good topic could be if the government should or shouldn't be allowed to look at your search results.
Look at your
Searches, it's like searching, like your search results.
well, and I think something like that could be where we don't consider it necessarily. Like when you say AI, I think we tend to think Alexa, Siri, all that kind of stuff with it. But artificial intelligence can certainly go into a lot of different realms where, if you and I are doing a Google search, and we both type in, I don't know, Brazil, you could get searches that are going to be geared towards vacation destination packages, airline tickets, and all that stuff to fly into Rio de Janeiro. I could be getting something about Brazilian soccer league, and it would be based from what we had done for previous searches. Gmail's always Google's always kind of been under fire with how much does their computers kind of pull from what you're doing. At the top of Gmail, it's kind of been disabled, I think, on your North Hills account, but at the top of Gmail, they used to always have like an advertising banner that would be running across. I used to get stuff in my emails for nursing homes. Not because I was going to go in a nursing home, but it was happening at a time when my dad, my aunt, myself were emailing one another about what we should do with my grandmother, and nursing home got mentioned, so those advertisements were starting to come in. So
it's like when you're talking about something with somebody, like you're interested in, and you see an ad for it pop up.
Sure. I mean, if you go to Amazon, and you look up, AirPods or whatever, and then you're on a random website, you'll start seeing all of those things. So, and this could be a separate topic, but it could also kind of play, in with it. Do we not value privacy, the same way that we used to? And I think depending upon what's happening politically, and from a terrorist standpoint or any other kind of national security standpoints, those values will kind of change. And in 2002, no one would have any issues with security checks at airports and all that kind of stuff coming off of 9/11. As we move into the future, I don't know if it stays exactly the same, or some people go, hey, why do we have to do all this, stuff? There's the argument that people would prefer to be safe than to be free. And if you value safety over freedom, you're going to be willing to kind of give up that stuff for government. But I think from a privacy standpoint, that certainly could be something to look at. I can start my car with Alexa. So I could be eating breakfast, be like, Alexa, start the car. She'll go, sure, I will start your car. And then she asks, what is your PIN? And then I say the PIN number. So if Zach's sitting on the other side of Alexa, at Amazon H2 headquarters in Virginia and New York City or whatnot, am I giving away too much information? Maybe. But I still do it, because convenience rules.
Or how, like,
We are lazy.
they're listening to everything you say when it's turned off.
Well, and from a police standpoint, they have basically, tried to get, Alexa recordings or Siri or all that stuff.
I was watching this video of this guy who did an experiment. He had his phone down and he left it on all day, and he opened the Google browser and he just left it on there from his phone all day.
Okay.
And he was talking to his friend about cat litter, and he didn't have a cat or anything, so they had no reason to search it ever. And they just talked about cat food and cat litter throughout the day. And then at night when he went on Facebook, there were tons of ads about cat litter just because they were talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Yes.
I'm not confirmed that they do that.
And in some ways, widely accepted.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it happens. Great. And then
I don't know where I heard this from, but I heard that there was some couple had an Alexa, and the guy was beating up the woman or something, and police came without her asking Alexa to do anything, and it's a big controversy on whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, because she was listening, but it helped the woman.
Right, and it goes even back to if you folks recall, this was 3-4, the San Bernardino shooting in California, where it was the perpetrator's iPhone. I think they wanted Apple to release information from the phone because they couldn't get into it, and Apple's refusing.
Yeah.
Not because they didn't want mysteries and things to be solved, but at what point is personal privacy being infringed upon in some ways? And I think that's what's you're kind of looking at with Alexa, and similar kind of smart devices. Because let's face it, probably within 5-10 years, we're not going to be flicking light switches anymore, but it'll be lights on, start the coffee maker, crock pot to medium. Yeah, that whole clapper thing, that was a good idea back in 1988.
Yeah.
They were way ahead of their time. And I think you could, is it something that we should value more, or is it something that we don't value enough? Thank goodness my 5th grader is still a nice kid. She's not rotten yet. her friends, you can tell their interests are starting to shift. They're kind of more closer to middle school than I think my daughter is when it comes to things with like social media and boys and all that kind of stuff. So you'll have the one friend, if she has your contact information, she'll give it out to whomever. So if Aiden has my stuff, he's not gonna be like, yeah, I wonder if Mr. Kane wants me to share this. Hey, here it is. Go out there. And that's something that it's not really yours anymore in some ways.
I was just gonna say, every time I start my car in the morning, my phone will immediately pop up and say like your car's location has been saved in like 11 minutes to North Hills High School. And then this is also what Grant was saying. I watched this video a while ago, but these two neighbors both had Alexas in their house, and one of the neighbors somehow like picked up the Alexa's sound and recording, and they saw like there was a kid being trapped in a room. I don't really know much about it. It was like this little kid and they were torturing him, and the neighbor found out about it from the Alexa.
Because something weird
Yeah,
happened
something happened.
which I mean, and yeah, like we have 3, I think. Yeah. We got one downstairs and there's one each in the girls' bedroom. And sometimes, like, hey, play, this in the TV room, and then in Sadie's room it'll start playing. So certainly could see situations where that would be going on. It's a good thing because it prevents, horrific crime from happening. But is it a good thing if Julia's having a private conversation and all of a sudden it's just randomly coming through on my Alexa? She would probably say no, that's not.
But then that raises the question, like, was Alexa listening the whole time and purposely did that? Like, someone behind Alexa purposely, like, sent that so that it was finding out?
Say Alexa.
I know, but, like, would it, yeah.
Well, and I don't know the answer, and I'm sure Amazon's not going to go, well, actually, we just hired so-and-so to sit behind there. But, I mean, before AI, it was all about, like, video cameras in cities. And the big thing in London was they would have, closed-circuit TV, but in certain neighborhoods and areas that were higher crime rates, they would have someone watching it at all times. So, you could have Nick at Command Central with 12 TV screens in front of him. He could see what was going on, and they had an intercom, like, microphone system with it. So, you in the North Hills Marching Band hoodie, pick up that gum wrapper now, kind of thing. Where people were going, is this good or is this bad? But it was like an eye in the sky kind of thing happening. Now, with like that kind of idea, and with this AI facial recognition, software that's going all over the place, if Julia is a suspect for something and a camera picks it up, it'll start tracking her to see where she goes. Now, the problem is, does Julia have like a double out there somewhere? Probably. So it's not Julia that did this heinous crime, but the other person may have done it, but now she has more attention being drawn toward her because of like a facial recognition software or something like that. If Byron does get the Emerson buzz cut, all of a sudden Emerson does something, is he going to get blamed for it, because of like his facial recognition? I think Hong Kong does it, Beijing has it, I'm sure some other cities do, but they're kind of using that. Where, faces, FBI databases, all that kind of stuff, it could pull up right away. Yep, there's Aiden, that's the guy we want, let's zone in on him. Again, if you're going, well, I have nothing to hide, safety's good, it could be a good thing, but I think,
It depends on like how good that facial recognition is. And that would make it easier to like mix up
Two faces matters even for some.
anyone have like a potential, again, not saying that this is what we would do, but any kind of potential idea that would bring in 1 or 2 of those?
What do you mean?
Like, anyone have, where we have like a potential resolution up here, does anyone have a statement that they think would be debatable that would incorporate 1 or 2 of those ideas? So the sacrificing one's personal privacy is beneficial as long as it promotes safety. You know, kind of being like an example.
Yeah, like the U.S. government should have complete access to whatever data gathering information is out there.
So that could, so for example, that could include things like Alexa, for
Right, like Alexa or that phone that they could get the password for, somebody's private security system or something like that.
So you said U.S. government should have access to whatever, like person.
I don't know how to phrase it.
Yeah, I don't, did you say digital data, personal data?
Gathering.
Would it make a difference if we were to say something like law enforcement? Okay.
Just like people.
Well, no, not that like people in general have people in general should have access to grants, personal.
Oh.
You know, where Byron was saying
Yeah.
U.S. government, I was just saying, would it make a difference if we said law enforcement should have access to? So, U.S. government should have access to individuals. You didn't say private information.
I said the data gathering devices.
Should have access to all data gathering devices.
Yeah, or
Okay.
complete access.
Complete. U.S. government should have complete access to all data gathering devices.
I think it should be more like in the case of the Patriot Act, where like in times of emergency or like war times, that's what they should have access to.
Okay. Well, when the good thing by you saying that is, if for you to go, you could go no as an argument against it, negative, and qualify it in the sense that only in extreme cases we are not currently in an extreme case. Understand though that we will have access to all data gathering devices. So put the jewel away.
Yeah.
What do you think the chances are from going jewel?
Like 100.
Yeah. If there's a number higher than 100.
He's just pushed it deeper in his pockets.
He seems extra fidgety now.
Yeah.
You notice?
Hey, what's that behind
Hey, your face is getting red. You nervous? You need to tell us something? Why are you sweating?
Notice how he's not looking at us.
It's making me nervous. No one's talking.
He's definitely.
We have data gathering devices. It's okay. All right. Topic wise, anything else?
I just see like the
Dabbing should be illegal.
it should be illegal.
You should be served in that sentence anyway.
What do you look this way?
Service denial, where like racial profiling or stereotyping, where service was like
Oh,
goods.
Be like businesses should be legally allowed to deny service to everybody, or private businesses.
Mine's boxing, but they already are.
Because it had like the most YouTube views. It was like the live.
Like all businesses.
It's like boring.
What we don't want to have happen is too much overlap taking place. So, like, I think these two are okay. I'm kind of and like Julia, when you talking about like denial of services and whatnot, I kind of wonder if they'll start to be a little bit across with, well, maybe not. I was worried about it overlapping with the second one that we just kind of came up with, but that might not be the case. I think that in some way would racial profiling start to kind of be part of this. So if you fit a certain type, is the idea that we're going to kind of pay more attention to devices and whatnot, and that would kind of carry over in the service.
If, so like a black person would pay more attention, like if there was data that showed that they listened more, if they picked and chose.
Like, so say there's a certain neighborhood of a city for higher crime rate, does that start to be the place that you focus on, where you don't really have any reasonable evidence to assume that someone would be guilty, but it's be guilty by association that we're going to pay attention because you live in this neck of the woods sort of thing.
Let's say all.
Anything in the entertainment field? We got two pretty heavy topics, which are good. You know, I think it's good to have something also that's a little more. I don't know if playful is the right word, but
Something about how like media and like entertainment makes unrealistic stereotypes or like
portrayal.
realistic, yeah, of like how people should be.
Yeah.
I don't know, just, yeah, going on with that, it would be like how celebrities are like are role models to people, but they're like almost unachievable to be like that person because they have like money and like power and stuff. So like looking up to people that are in the entertainment business is not necessarily a good thing.
Or like worshiping celebrities, like treating them like almost like God essentially.
Pick a random celebrity. Megan Fox.
Wait, how do you
Megan Fox.
Okay. Megan Fox is a good role model.
Yes.
I have no idea.
It teaches you to be like, I don't know.
She was in the good dreams.
Like way back when. You know, or like say take Taylor Swift. I think we actually did this like 4 years ago or something. It was like the resolution was Taylor Swift is a positive role model. So and I think whatever celebrity you come up with, I think the gut reactions would go, no, not good to follow. So is it something that is still then debatable? Because do you want to go, oh, I hope I don't get that one where I have to defend,
Yeah.
you know, a Hollywood celebrity or something along those lines? You could, if there were, and I don't have anyone coming off the top of my mind, if there was a celebrity that we know is like, is there anyone we associate with like charitable organizations like
J.K.
Will Smith.
Rowling.
Will Smith.
It's like
Yeah, Oprah.
Oprah, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Ellen would probably be good. So
relevant celebrity.
Well, she's like,
Her Ellen's actually a mean person. Like whenever like she's not on TV, I heard she's like actually mean.
Dory can't be mean.
I don't
Dory.
believe that.
I believe it.
I mean, obviously I
You
met
know,
her,
make
but
it-
just
Yeah.
like stories.
No,
about her,
I
like,
have no idea.
Ellen?
that's why.
Where's
That's the reason.
Yeah, Ellen wears like a mask over makeup.
She's like
what is it?
I said why, but mine's not. The blood.
We knew that.
What do you about creativity? Like, is creativity been lessened?
Yes. No.
Yes,
dude. Every
It's-
movie that comes
that's
out
a good
now
one
is like the
because
same thing.
you could come up with a good argument for either side.
Like, and you could say, like, you could still, and I don't have anything particular, like, you could go, that was a good movie. Like, okay, Star Wars is back, has been for a while. Probably the Solo movie was very divisive for a lot of folks, where people were going, that is the worst Star Wars movie that has ever been created. And you have others going, I thought it was pretty good. you know, so you could go that the movie that you could enjoy a movie, but go the creativity is not really there, you know, anymore. Or like the way that animation is certainly kind of coming into things where, you know, maybe there's not as much manipulation of sets and camera angles where some of the cinematography talents aren't as important anymore because you can have DreamWorks and Pixar, you know, doing all of these things. So
I think it'd be hard to argue that like all entertainment is like makes it more creative and less creative because like certain types like you could say that cinematography, like if you went along with that, sometimes it might less creative because it's so much easier to like make things digitally and everything.
yeah.
But then you could also say with like more live action stuff,
Like you could do, and I'm just writing this, you know, as a whole, Hollywood's product has been diminished over the years. So, and I think what kind of comes a key word is you looking at product. You could go, you know what? I don't think the actors are as good anymore as they once were. You know, the when you think of top grossing actors today compared to what they were 30 years ago, you know, the stage presence, the you know, all that kind of stuff, it's not there. However, you could go, but the special effects, the way that we're able to do some things, there's no comparison to what you were able to do, you know, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
The actors are more important than the movie's plot. On the line.
I agree with that.
Like, more, like, do you mean like more so now, or
I was thinking more.
just in general?
I don't know. You could put a timetable or things.
So the resolution being that the actors, actresses are more important than the plot, and then so one side being yes they are, and the other side being no, the plot supersedes the quality of the actor. Okay.
Are you saying that people go to see a movie because of the actors and actresses that are in it, rather than what the movie's about? Yeah.
I think you could turn what you said about like the special, like that could be its own argument. Special effects have made movies like better in general.
Like I would say, and this would kind of go with Zach's point. 20 years ago, yeah, about 20, 15 to 20 years ago, if Tom Hanks was in the movie, it was going to be a #1 movie. Have no idea how Mr. Rogers is going to do. You know, did it come out yet?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
not-
So you know when it gets released and he's, you know, title character, well, the fact that it's him as the main actor, will that pull people in? I have no idea. I don't know if it would as much, you know, anymore. Now, if something is starring The Rock, do people go to see The Rock because I know it's going to be an action movie? The Rock's not going to be playing, you know, King Friday. And
Tuesday.
this is true. This is true.
That was a good movie.
Arnold Schwarzenegger dressed up as like Santa Claus for one of his stupid movies. So I think that it does. You certainly sometimes could go to see something because of who it is, based on the talent, or because you know what that genre of movie that's going to be. For actresses, I would say like for a long time, Meryl Streep. If she was in the film, people would see it because it had to be a good film. Kate Blanchett probably kind of had that kind of ethos that would go along with it.
I was just gonna ask about you, actually.
Yeah.
I don't agree that like people go to see the movies specifically because of the actors and actresses that are in it, but like I agree with that. Like if Meryl Streep or like someone like a good actor or actress is in it, then it enhances like the movie.
The overall quality.
Right. Like the reason why I want to go see it.
This has nothing to do with what you just said, so don't take offense to it. I would rather watch a movie at home than in the theater.
It depends.
Why?
I'm just saying this as I don't know if I believe it or not. But does that kind of become more like So it used to always be, yes, you want to go to see the theater because it's going to sound better, it's going to look better. You would rather go to the Steeler game or to the Penguin game or to the Pirate game and say you were there. It meant something to be there. You have Super Bowl tickets, oh my goodness. Now, it's cold. I could be at home. I have surround sound. I have a 75-inch TV.
I think that like the way critiquing is and like how people listen to like other opinions like before movies even come out, that influences a lot more of like
If Rotten Tomatoes says it's a good movie, I'll think it's a good movie.
right. Like if you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, that movie wasn't that good," you're probably gonna start even if not fully, you'll think in the back of your mind, "This movie might not be the best."
Hey, it's all about what you can show in those 90 seconds. I think we might do something with this. Something along those lines. Monday, we'll try to hammer out maybe one more, and then we can go from there.